I want to bring in a friend and a colleague and a writer for us that talks a lot of NL East. And let's bring him in now, Jordan Shusterman. Jordan, what's up, my friend?
Oh, it's great to see you, Ben. Happy to be joining you and talking about the mysterious madness that is the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yes, that is honestly the entire NL East, right? I mean, it's all a
Yes.
bunch of madness. But let's start with the Phillies, because that's what I've been on a rant about for the past 10 minutes. Because to be quite honest with you, I am a little frustrated with this team. I am frustrated with the Phillies, and I believe they are good enough to be on the cusp of being a playoff team. What is wrong, in your opinion, with the Phillies?
Yeah, it is indeed very, very, very frustrating to watch. And I think when you look at their offseason, you see the decisions that they made, which is to kind of punt on defense and decide, hey, we're just going to outscore teams, right? We're going to sort of address the bullpen with Knebel and Brad Hand, who have been not great, but have been okay. But the thing is, if you're gonna say, all right, defense is whatever, we're just going to slug, you better be slugging like crazy. And while those hitters have been okay, if you need more than just okay or just good, right? And we've seen spurts of Schwarber, seen spurts of Castellanos. It has not been nearly enough. If that's how you're going to build your team, you better be one of the best offenses in baseball, bar none. And they have not been that. And we know the defense is troublesome. And then the bullpen has just still not been addressed. I guess they have technically addressed it, but because it's the Phillies, it just hasn't really worked out in ways that I'm sure they expected.
Exactly, like you said, if this team wants to be good, they can't even be a good offense. They need to be an elite offense, and they haven't been that. Let's talk about this bullpen a little bit. What are the answers here? Is there anybody in the minor leagues coming up? Are there any prospects? Do they need to trade for somebody, or do you just try and hope they figure it out? What would you do, and what are they like? What are they thinking?
Yeah, it's a good question. And you know, Dombrowski has had sort of a mixed track record of figuring these bullpens out. And again, when you look at the two, well, I guess you could say three, right? Because they brought in Familia too. I mean, these are famous relievers, but all of them are pretty considerably past their prime. Maybe Knebel, the closest we have seen him, been really good. But Knebel, Familia, Brad Hand. And they haven't been catastrophic if you just look at the ERAs. But when you say them not being completely shut down, and you see Jose Alvarado has really been, a real disappointment when you were expecting him to be one of the big four. Yeah, it's tough. Now, I will say Sir Anthony Dominguez is the one to watch. And he's a guy who had been out with Tommy John. He came back this year. I remember seeing him in spring training and thinking, this dude could be a closer. Now, he's not nearly as established as those other three guys, but I wouldn't be shocked if, Knebel continues to struggle, that maybe Dominguez goes into that closer role. But again, Girardi, he's obviously going to like his veterans, right? And so I think he's going to ride with those guys as long as he can until it's completely untenable, which might be, until it's too late. But we'll see. I do like Sir Anthony Dominguez, though. I had to shout him out.
So you just mentioned Girardi, and I was just thinking about this here. Is it out of the realm of possibility that Girardi is on the very, very hot seat right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you look around at just the managers in baseball and you think about, right, like who could be on the hot seat, you look at the teams that had high expectations or reasonably high expectations that are drastically underperforming. And yeah, I mean, he's near the top of that discussion. Generally, I'm not one to almost ever think that the manager is the reason why a team is not performing well.
Right.
I know managers can't have a big difference, although I've always kind of subscribed to the theory that most of the managers are pretty similar, and then there's a couple, super duper elite ones, and then maybe a couple like really not so good ones, and then the rest are kind of similar. I still feel like Girardi's kind of somewhere in the middle, even with his reputation, and so I don't think he's the problem. However, managers usually are the fall guys, and so if he is the one that ends up having to go, it would not totally shock me.
So what's going on? And I know you cover a lot of the NL East, and I'm sure you've talked to people that might know a little more than I do about this situation. What is going on with Bryce Harper and his arm? And are we going to see Bryce Harper back out in the outfield at some point this year? Because this defense is dead last in baseball, and I'm not going to sit here and say Bryce Harper is an elite defender, but he can throw people out at the plate, and he can be adequate out there, and he hasn't been out there in over a month to this point.
Right. Well, but to your point, we just said is one of his values on defense is his arm, which we know is an issue.
Right.
And so I don't see any reason why they're going to necessarily rush him back out there if he doesn't have, the most important defensive tool that he has. Is he better than Nick Castellanos under any circumstance? I think yes. But again, I think Harper's not the problem. Like, even if he's DHing, he is mashing, right? And so as bad as his defense is, and arguably even worse when you have Harper DHing, they need him on the field. And if they're going to risk him, getting more injured, and take him out of the lineup, I don't think they're going to do that. So I'm not totally sure what the full plan is for him to come back. But yeah, I just feel like as long as he's hitting, that should be the least of your concerns, whether he's playing right field or DH. So they have a lot of other things they need to figure out first.
Yeah, I agree. So my last question for you, and I know I haven't talked much about the Braves in this segment, but I'm going to just mention them for a second. Braves and Phillies, you cover all of the NL East. My question for you is, are they looking at a wild card spot? Do they have the potential to still win the NL East? Or do you think the NL East is the Mets to take, and it's a done deal in the NL East?
Yeah, man. I mean, hey, never count out the Mets in the opposite direction. But I would say that look, I am a believer in the Mets, that they're the best team in this division. You were just talking about before I hopped on, right? Like, even with that extra wild card spot, we know how crowded that is with the NL West contenders and with teams like St. Louis and Milwaukee. And I think that the Padres' hot start has really, really made that even more interesting than we expected. I feel, look, the Braves have also been really disappointing. I know they've dealt with some injuries, but they have a lot to overcome as well, with not as bad of a hole that they've dug for themselves the way that the Phillies have. So I think they're both going to be fighting for that third wild card spot. It would not shock me if one of them does manage to work their way back into it, down that last stretch. But I'm not sure I would bet on either of them to actually get it if you made me pick today.
Yeah, I've been saying it a while this year. I don't believe this Mets team is going to Met, if you will. I think they are built differently. That could come back to bite me at some point, but and we're seeing it now, all of the injuries, and they're still playing the best baseball in the league over the last couple of weeks. So, Jordan, thank you for hopping on with me for a few minutes. You're covering the NL East, and you're doing a great job at it. So I'll bring you back on whenever we're talking some NL East, my friend.
Appreciate it, man. Always good to see you, Ben.
Thanks for watching. If you love flipping bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.